I am Bridget K. Valdez and I am going to report about the correlation and linear regression. Correlation is a statistical tool that helps to measure and analyze the degree of relationship between two variables. It also deals with the association between two or more variables. The value of a correlation coefficient is always between -1 and +1, where -1 indicates a perfectly negative linear correlation between two variables. Example, one variable decreases as the other increases. 0 indicates no linear correlation between two variables. Example, however, there could be non-linear relationship between the two variables. +1 indicates a perfectly positive linear correlation between two variables. Example, one variable increases with the other. So here are the examples of correlation. A positive correlation, negative correlation, and no linear correlation. Here is the simple example of positive correlation. Temperature versus total ice cream. The temperature and total ice cream sale ay may positibong ugnayan. In other words, kapag mainit sa labas, mas mataas ang benta ng ice cream ng mga kumpanya dahil mas maraming tao ang bumibili ng ice cream kapag mainit ang panahon. If we created the scatter plot of temperature versus ice cream sales, it may look like this. And here is the example of negative correlation. Time spent watching TV versus exam scores. Mas maraming oras ang ginugugol ng isang mag-aaral sa panunood ng telebisyon, mas mababa ang kanilang mga marka sa pagsusulit. In other words, the variable time spent watching TV and the variable exam score have a negative correlation. Bumababa ang mga marka ng pagsusulit habang tumataas ang dami ng oras na iginugugol sa panunood ng telebisyon. Here is the example of no linear correlation. Shoe size versus movies watched. The shoe size of individuals and the number of the movies they watch per year has a correlation of 0. In other words, knowing the shoe size of an individual doesn't give us an idea of how many movies they watch per year. Linear regression implies that a statistical tool used to identify the nature of relationship existing between a dependent variable and a set of independent variables. A linear regression has an equation of the form y equals to bx plus a. X is the explanatory variable, y is the dependent variable, b is the slope of the line, a is the intercept or the value of y when x is equals to 0. So we have to study the relationship between the monthly e-commerce sales and the online advertising costs. We have the survey result for 7 online stores for the last year. We can see that there is a positive relationship between the monthly e-commerce sales y and online advertising costs, which is the x. The positive correlation indicates that the values of the dependent variable y increases when the value of the independent variable x rises. So if we want to predict monthly e-commerce sales based on online advertising costs, the higher the value of the advertising cost, the higher our sales prediction.
Magandang gabi sa lahat. I am Manlin D. Serigilla, one of the reporter for tonight, and my topic is all about univariate and multivariate example. Univariate. This type of data consists of only one variable. The analysis of univariate data is thus the simplest form of analysis since the information deals with only one quantity that changes. It does not deal with the causes or relationships, and the main purpose of the analysis is to describe the data and find patterns that exist within it. The term univariate analysis refers to the analysis of one variable. You can remember this because the prefix uni means one. Multivariate. Multivariate analysis is defined as the statistical study of data where multiple measurements are made on each experimental unit and where the relationships among multivariate measurements are their structure are important. Multivariate analysis refers to the analysis of more than one variable. You can remember this because the prefix multi means more than one. In univariate, there are three common ways to perform univariate analysis. First, summary statistics. We can calculate measures of central tendency like the mean or median for one variable. Second, frequency distributions. We can create a frequency distributions which describes how often each value occurs for one variable. Third, charts. We can create charts like box plots, histograms, density curves, etc. to visualize the distribution of values for one variable. Sa multivariate naman, there are two common ways to perform multivariate analysis. First is scatterplot matrix. We can create a scatterplot matrix which allow us to visualize the relationship between each pairwise combination of variables in a data set. Second, machine learning algorithms. We can use a supervised learning algorithm to fit a model like multiple linear regression that quantifies the relationship between multiple predictor variables and a response variables. The following examples show how to perform univariate analysis with the following dataset. We could choose to perform univariate analysis on any of the individual variables in the dataset. And this is our dataset. For example, we may choose to perform univariate analysis on the variable's household size. At ang ways na ginamit ko to perform univariate is yung first ang chart. Second, we can also create a box plot to visualize the distribution of values for the household size. Alternatively, we could create a histogram to visualize the distribution of values. By performing these metrics and creating these charts, we can gain a strong understanding of how the values are distributed for the variable household size. Dito naman sa multivariate, ang ways na ginamit ko ay ang scatterplot matrix. At ito yung example ng scatterplot matrix. Summary. Univariate analysis is the analysis of one variable. Multivariate analysis is the analysis of more than one variable. There are various ways to perform each type of analysis depending on your end goal. In the real world, we often perform both types of analysis on a single dataset. Univariate analysis allow us to understand the distribution of values for one variable, while multivariate analysis allow us to understand the relationship between several variables. And that's all. Thank you.
So good morning everyone, I'm Rina Salga and my topic would be correlation coefficient. So what is correlation coefficient? So the correlation coefficient is a measure of the association between two variables. It is used to find the relationship is between data. So the correlation coefficients are developed by Carl Pearson in the early 90s. Is a numerical measure of the strength of association between the dependent variables x and in the dependent variables y, and a measure to check how strong it is. Sigma as the summation symbol. So next tayo.
So, where n equals the number of data points, if you suspect a linear relationship between x and y, then r can measure how strong the linear relationship is. So, what the value of r tells us. So, the value of r is always between -1 and +1. So, the size of the correlation r indicates the strength of the linear relationship between x and y. Values of r close to -1 or to +1 indicates a stronger linear relationship between x and y. So, if r equal to 0, there is absolutely no linear relationship between x and y. Kumbaga, no linear correlation. So, if r equal to 1, there is perfect positive correlation. If r equal to -1, there is perfect negative correlation. In both these cases, all of the original data points lie on a straight line. Of course, in the real world, this will not generally happen. So, kanin diri sa baba, mo ni siya ang formula sa correlation coefficient. So, R is a correlation coefficient equals to n times the sum of xy minus the sum of x times the sum of y. So, divided by the square root of n times
The
the
sum
sum
of
of
x
x
squared
squared
values
values
minus
minus
the
the
sum
sum
of
of
x
x
values,
values,
then
then
squared, then
then
squared
squared
sa
sa
labas.
labas.
So be
So, be
careful
careful
with
with
that
that
difference,
difference,
guys,
guys,
ha.
ha.
So
So,
let's
let's
proceed.
proceed.
So
So,
n
n
times
times
the
the
sum
sum
of
of
y
y
squared
squared
values
values
minus
minus
the
the
sum of
sum of
y
y
values
values
squared, then
then
squared.
squared.
So
So,
let's
let's
proceed to
proceed
the
to the
next.
next.
So what
What
what the
what the
sign
sign
of
of
r
r
tells
tells
us?
us?
So
So,
a
a
positive
positive
values
values
of
of
r
r
means
means
that
that
when
when
x
x
increases,
increases,
y
y
tends to
tends to
increase,
increase,
and
and
when
when
x
x
decreases,
decreases,
y
y
tends to
tends to
decrease.
decrease.
So
So,
that is
that
a
is a
positive
positive
correlation.
correlation.
So
So,
we
we
have
have
here,
here,
so
so
next,
next,
a
a
negative
negative
value
value
of
of
r
r
means
means
that
that
when
when
x
x
increases,
increases,
y
y
tends
tends
to
to
decrease,
decrease,
and
and
when
when
x
x
decreases,
decreases,
y
y
tends to
tends to
increase.
increase.
So
So
that
that
is
is
negative
negative
correlation.
correlation.
So
So
lastly, the
lastly, the
sign of
sign of
r is
r
the
is the
same
same
as
as
the
the
sign of
sign
the
of the
slope,
slope,
b
b
of
of
the
the
best
best
fit
fit
line.
line.
So
So
next,
next.
so
So
I
I
have
have
here
here
example
example
of
of
correlation
correlation
coefficient.
coefficient.
So
So
nako do
nakado
example
example
of
of
correlation.
correlation.
So
So
first is
first is
we
we
have
have
to
to
multiply
multiply
the
the
x
x
and
and
y.
y.
So
So
second,
second,
the
the
sum
sum
of
of
y, x and y, and x squared and y squared. So in this topic, we talk about how to calculate between the two variables, which is x and y. So si x and y. So let's proceed. So si x na siya 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values. So si y naman na siya 2, 4, 7, 9, 12, 14 values. So si x, i-multiply na to na siya. So si x, the sum of x equals to 21. So sa y naman, the sum of y equals to 48. So, para makuha ng si xy, i-times na to si x o si y. So, 1 times 2 equals 2, 2 times 4 equals 8, 3 times 7 equals 21, 4 times 9 equals 36, 5 times 12 equals 60, and 6 times 14 equals 84. So, i-multiply na to ni siya tanan sa xy equals to the sum of xy equals to 211. So, dito naman tayo sa x squared. So, ang si x, dito tayo sa x, 1 squared equals 1, 2 squared equals 4, 3 squared equals 9, 4 squared equals 16, 5 squared equals 25, and 6 squared equals 36. So, multiply natin ang x squared. So, the sum of x squared equals to 91. So, dito naman tayo sa y squared. So, we have here y squared. We have 2 squared equals 4, 4 squared equals 16, 7 squared equals 48, 49, 9 squared equals 81, 12 squared 149,
and 14 squared equals 196. So, then multiply natin yung y squared. So, the sum of y squared equals to 490. So, let's proceed sa another naman. Let's put the, wait lang guys ha. So, now let's proceed na. So, next, dito naman tayo sa solution. So, the formula diba, CR is a correlation coefficient. So, Cn times the sum of x, y minus the sum of x values and the sum of y values divided by the square root of then n the sum of x squared values minus the sum of x squared then squared sa x values then squared sa labas and then n times the sum of y squared and minus the sum of y and then squared. So, dito naman tayo sa r. So, si r equals to n. So, si n is a x value. So, we have 6 values of x, diba? Which is there of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, we have 6 values. So, puta na to diri 6 minus 6 times the sum of xy which is 211. So minus the sum of x which is 21, the sum of x puta na to diri ang 21 times the sum of y which is 48. So puta na to diri 48. So divided by the square root of copy the 6 which is the n times the squared the x squared, sorry, the x squared is 91, so copy the 91 here. So minus the sum of x, so which is the sum of x equals to 21, buta na to 21, then squared sa labas, and then 6 is the values and times y squared we have 490, puta natin ang 490 minus the sum of y which is the 48 then squared. So dito naman tayo sa r. So 6 times 211 equals 1266 and then minus then 21 times 48 equals 1008. Thus divided by the square root. Then sa baba naman 6 times 91 equals 546 minus 21 squared equals 441. And then dito naman tayo 6 times 490 equals 2940. Then minus 48 squared, then the 48 squared equals 2304. So let's subtract. I-subtract natin to sila. So 1266 minus 1008 equals 258. And dito naman, lagay natin dito. Tapos, divided then, square root. Then dito naman tayo, 546 minus 441 equals 105. And 2940 minus 2304 equals 636. So, let's subtract. I-subtract natin to. Multiply multiply natin to. So, r equals 258. Ito, 258. Plus, 105 times 636 equals 66780. So, 258 divided by the square root of 66780 equals to 0.998. So that's mean this R value is very high. This indicates that there is a strong linear relationship between the x and y. It because x has increases and y has increases.
Good evening everyone. So I am Arlogian Ulan and I will be the one to continue the topic. And the topic that I'm going to discuss is all about regression. So without further ado, I'm here to discuss to you what is this all about. So what is regression? Regression is a statistical method used in finance, investing, and other disciplines that attempts to determine the strength and character of the relationship between one dependent variable, usually denoted by y, and a series of other variables known as independent variables. The regression analysis is a powerful tool for uncovering the associations between variables observed in data, but cannot easily indicate causation. So, it is used in several contexts, usually in business, finance, and economics. For instance, it is used to help investment managers value assets and understand the relationship between factors such as commodity prices and the stocks of business dealing in those commodities. Regression captures the correlation between variables observed in data set and quantities, whether those correlations are statistically significant or not. Hence, regression tends to analyze and comprehend the relationship between two or more variables of interest. The process used to perform regression analysis aids in understanding which factors are important, which can be ignored, and how they interact with one another. That's all. Thank you.